Yung malalaking bato doon sa babaw ng Mount Samat, hinuhukay namin sa lalim na yung ganun. Para ikuha namin sa mga puno kayo, wala na kami mga balay.
With no further organized resistance possible, and assured that the prisoners would be treated humanely, General King decided to surrender the entire Bataan force to the Japanese.
Bataan has fallen.
On Corregidor, the voice of freedom broadcast the fall of Bataan.
Blood-stained peninsula have laid down their arms.
Marami sa amin ang haluha. Nung marinig namin, yung broadcast na yan, ano magagawa namin? Talagang ganyan.
It was only after the fighting stopped that the Japanese realized that they had more than 66,000 Filipino soldiers and over 10,000 American troops as prisoners of war. The Japanese now found themselves facing an overwhelming logistical challenge for which they were unprepared. They devised a plan that called for gathering the POWs in the towns of Mariveles and Balanga and marching them to San Fernando, Pampanga. From there, the prisoners would board cargo trains to Capas, Tarlac for a final walk to the O'Donnell prison camp. This 100-kilometer ordeal came to be known as the Death March.
It was early, It was summer, April, ang init.
They took my watch, they took a ring, they took my wallet, they took everything I had.
Some prisoners never even made it to the Death March, but their fate was no less tragic. Most notable among these were over 400 officers and men from various USAFE units who were forcibly assembled by the Japanese near the Pantingan River.
Hands were now tied, connected to each other by these telephone wires. The Japanese commander gave an order, they all fixed bayonet.
The Death March took its toll on the rest of the POWs. Given meager rations and deprived of water, many died by the roadside.
It becomes a question of time before you just want water so bad you'll do anything to get it.
Some who fell out of line or delayed the march were simply bayoneted by their Japanese captors.
We decided that when somebody was already sick and could not walk, we had two of us among those who were healthy had to carry him so that he will not impede the march.
In a show of solidarity, townspeople along the route pitched in their support, tossing food and water to the prisoners and helping some escape.
I don't remember who they were, but I remember a Filipino girl that used to give me a babinka.
At the San Fernando rail station, those prisoners who had survived the march found out that their ordeal was far from over.
And they packed us into these cars, 100 or better to a car. And they were little cars to begin with, no air. In that car alone, where I was at, men died standing up and had no room to fall down.
In sum, more than 15,000 Filipinos and Americans are estimated to have died or escaped during the Death March. The fall of Bataan now left Corregidor isolated. Yet to the surprise of the Japanese, the valiant defenders of the rock continued to hold out.
The common feeling of all the people that I was with that we were going to fight to the end, like the Alamo, you know. We would fight until we were all gone.
Elsewhere in the archipelago, other Filipinos continued to defy the Japanese as well. Among these courageous patriots was Supreme Court Chief Justice Jose Abad Santos, who refused to collaborate with the enemy.
He cautioned me, he said, "Do not cry, Pepito. Show these people that you're brave, that everybody is given the opportunity to die for one country." He marched proudly with his shirt flapping. And then after that, I went up to the house and I took my prayer book and read the prayer for the dead. And after a few minutes, I heard a volley of shots and I knew that my father was gone.
After a month of daily heavy bombardment, the Japanese finally launched their invasion of Corregido on the night of May 5, 1942.
Amidst shelling and firing, protektado sila. Kanilang itaas, kanilang dagat. Kaya walang nagawa. Pero ang Corregido fired all the guns they had.
Despite the odds, the Corregido defenders inflicted heavy losses on the invaders. But with air and artillery supremacy, the Japanese were able to establish a beachhead. With enemy tanks on the island and the hospital in Malinta Tunnel at risk, General Wainwright was forced to surrender. It was May 6, 1942, 27 days after Bataan had fallen. The Corregido POWs were marched through the streets of Manila on the way to Bilibid prison where they were initially confined. Eventually, the defenders of Corregido were taken to Camp O'Donnell to join their comrades from Bataan.
Ang buhay para doon. Anak ng hopeless.